Hello everyone, welcome to my video. Today we will be replacing the LCD screen on a Toshiba E205-S1904 laptop. Somebody stepped on the LCD screen and this is what it looks like, all these black lines. So it's a fairly easy fix, and let's get to it. Let's turn off the machine. You will need a small flat tip screwdriver and a small Phillips head screwdriver for all the numerous screws we'll be taking out. Okay, wait for the power to go off. It's off. Okay, let's take off the power and the battery. Okay. First thing we will do is remove the screw covers in the trim bezel. We'll use our flat tip screwdriver for that. And they come off fairly easily, but you have to pry them off a little. Be careful not to scratch the trim, and just pry up underneath. They're kind of rubbery and plasticky, so they have a little bit of give. See, the screw heads are exposed. There's two. Get out the other two. Okay, that came out. Okay, now take out our screws. And you might want to put your screws in a little cup or something, but I have a lot of room on my table, so I'll be pretty confident I won't lose them. Whatever suits you. Actually, the screws that hold the LCD into its frame are even smaller, so just be careful. Be aware that they could roll away. Alright, one last screw. Okay, now once they're out, the trim bezel has to be popped off, and that comes off fairly easily. Just get your finger underneath. It's fairly flexible, so don't be too afraid of breaking it, but just still be careful. You'll start to hear little pops, and that means that it's coming up. It takes a little doing. So one side usually comes up easier than the other, but that's something to be found out on your particular model. And once you start to hear it go, you can see it start opening up. Just let your finger underneath, run it around, and that will usually loosen it all up. There it goes. Go all the way around, down along the bottom. And that's that. Set that aside. Okay, now we have 4 screws to remove, 2 on each side, top and bottom. And the top is pretty easy to get to here, as you can see, but the bottom is a little harder to get to because it's held into the frame by these hinge screws. So what we're going to do before we remove this LCD from its frame is loosen up these hinge screws. Don't take them out, just loosen them up a little bit, and that'll make it possible to pull the LCD forward to get at those bottom screws. See how it pulled away a little bit? There we go. So, let's take out some screws. And these screws are smaller than the ones we just took out in the trim bezel, so be careful. Very small. You'll feel it moving around in there. Got 2 more screws. Okay. And 1 more. Now, what I like to do when I lower the LCD screen is like to have something on the keyboard just to keep it safe. This is metal. The LCD screen is encased in metal all around, so there is the potential for scratching. So I like to have this on here. Now some laptops will have the webcam wire adhered to the back of the LCD screen with tape, but that is not the case with this one. We're pretty lucky. It's simple. Just fold it down, and there it is. That's the back of it. This is powered by basically just 1 cable. And we will take that off to remove the wiring harness that powers the LCD. This is held on with tape, and the ribbon also has adhesive underneath there, so that will have to be picked up as well. Very carefully. Just lift it up. Okay. And then there's a piece of tape on the other side of the connector, and we will lift that up. And now it's free, and just pull it away carefully. Okay, and it's out. Very simple. That's gone. And I'm going to, I got this the other day, came in the mail, no problem. This goes in. You just carefully work it into the connector. It's very small and very delicate, so just take your time and be patient. But you'll know exactly when it fits in there, nice and neat. Press the adhesive down. Bring it back up. Place it in its frame. Tuck that wire in there. This is your webcam cable. Fortunately, it goes all the way around and up the back, and it's very convenient instead of having it adhered to the back of the LCD screen. We'll put it back in our frame very carefully. Just get a screw in there, get it started. I won't cinch up, I won't tighten this screw. I'll just get it in there so we can hold it. Hold the LCD screen in place. There we go. I'll come back to that one in a second. And we will put in the bottom screw. This one's a little tricky. But just be patient and careful, and you can do it too. Again, I'm just going to put it in kind of loose. I'll come back to that. Guess we don't need that anymore. Now, you don't have to do this, but I'm leaving the protective film that arrived with the LCD screen on until I'm done, or until I just have it in place. That way, to minimize any possibility of scratching. Last screw. Okay. I'll take off the protective film. I guess we're okay now. Okay. Get that out of the way. Now you may notice that it's a different type of finish. This is a matte finish, whereas this was a glossy finish. And that is really no problem at all as far as performance of the screen, as long as the dimensions and the resolution are the same, and the connectors, of course. You can use either finish. I prefer a matte. It's less glare, less reflection in bright lights. There is some loss of color as far as the deep, rich blacks that you'll get out of a glossy screen, but that's my preference, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice. So let's continue tightening up our screws now that the monitor is in. Not too tight, of course, you know, just tiny screws, you don't need too much force. Carefully tighten those up. Okay. Now we will tighten up our hinge screws. Now we can put on our trim bezel. And it's actually trickier to put it back on than it is to take it off, because you have to align it just right. And the bottom does take some doing. Let's get started here. And you'll know when you've got it together, because this seam will be nice and tight. At the bottom, you have to finesse a little bit. Well, I'm going to come back to that, but what I really want to do right now is get a couple of these screws in here into the top, which actually have metal connectors and are ground components. You might have seen the foil in the background when we took the screen out, and the before I turn on the monitor to test it, I just wanted to be sure that these are connected and that all the circuits are properly grounded. Before I make the effort into completely getting this trim bezel snapped in, I just want to make sure that it's going to work. So let's fire it up right now before we finish off all the trim work and make sure that it works. That looks good already. That didn't look like that when I turned it on before. There we go. Looks like we've got our screen firing up, which is great. So that's it. Very simple. Takes under 10 minutes, and you can do it too. So I hope this helped, and thank you for watching.